What's going on, guys? Apathettic here with all your tips, recommendations, and everything in between to make sure you are set up for success in the Crucible. And today we're going to cover the things you need to stop doing in the competitive playlist. Let's get into it. For our first tip here, guys, and that's to stop laning so damn hard. I've been playing a ton of comp recently, and this is something I've been seeing a lot, and it's probably one of the top reasons people or teams are unsuccessful in competitive. They focus so hard down one lane that it causes them to miss everything that is happening around them, and when you lane this hard, you are throwing your situational awareness out the window. The result of that is a couple of things. First is you open yourself up to being easily flanked, since you're having this tunnel vision moment on whatever player or lane. But almost even worse is you are less likely to be in a position to support your team. So often when I die in competitive, and now I'm spectating for a moment, I see my teammates just staring from the worst angles or focused on an enemy that is nowhere near a dominant point or strong point on the map like heavy. And if all they had done had just been a little more heads up and focused less on laning, then we would have team shot the enemy, or at the very least they would have been able to finish the kill and make sure we maintain map control. So please, guys, make sure you are setting a little timer in your head when you're laning, because it's going to happen. Laning is going to happen. I'm not saying you can't ever lane. Laning is just a part of the game, but the key is setting that little timer in your head for like 5 seconds, then stop laning, reassess your surroundings. Then if people's positions on the map hasn't changed and your teammates or making any kind of push or aren't making any kind of push, then by all means enjoy your laning. But we need to be assessing all our surroundings as much as possible, and setting that timer in your mind will help ensure you're able to support your team and yourself. The second thing you need to stop doing competitive is stop pushing the same way. And this is a big pet peeve of mine. You have these teammates who every single time at the beginning of the round, they slide in the same spot and get sniped round after round, or they keep pushing the same part of the map where they've been team shot to hell time after time. And it's almost like this stubbornness, right? We are pushing through this same part of the map because it's a comfort thing. I've had success pushing through here in the past. I'm just going to stick to that because eventually I will break through, and maybe that's true. But even if you do eventually break through the way you want to, pushing the way you want to, by that time, how many lives have we wasted just trying to go the same way? Because think about it. If I'm the enemy, you keep pushing the same way, and for 3 rounds, I've killed you in the same exact spot. The human brain looks for patterns in things, and your enemy will recognize your pattern easily. And what has just happened is you become predictable, which is the worst thing you can be in the Crucible. So when you slide out into a lane, because that's where you like to push through, it's super important that you do so in a way where you have a way out, because we need to be able to probe to see if this will be an effective way to push against this particular team. So for me, I use a combination of my eyes and my radar to assess where the enemy is pushing from. Then from there, based on radar movement, I'll slide out or peek out just enough to see if the way I want to push to gain map control is actually viable. This allows us to explore if the way we want to push will be effective, but also keeps us from wasting lives in the process. The third thing we need to stop doing, guys, is pushing so far into our enemy spawn. Why does this matter? It's all about map control and maintaining the strong points of the map, forcing the enemy to funnel in from certain points. Now, I'm always game for pushing in and wiping a team in their spawn, but what I'm talking about specifically is pushing into the enemy spawn by yourself when they're all clearly camped out back there and no one is around to help you, or unnecessarily challenging 2 enemies who are laning you near their spawn. It's at this point, if the enemy is playing super passive, that you sit back and hold the map/heavy control. Eventually they will have to push out or risk giving you heavy control, and what that will ultimately result in is an easy win. Now, the flip side of pushing too far into enemy spawns is, as you may have guessed, it can cause the spawns to flip. What this can do is, if your team isn't careful, it puts you in a position where you are basically pinching yourself. You got 1 or 2 enemies on one side of the map, then you get super impatient, push in and maybe kill 1 or 2, but now the 2 are essentially spawning behind you and pushing in because they know you're focused on the other side of the map. This results in us potentially losing a lot of map control and getting flanked in the process. Playing it slow is sometimes the key to victory, guys, and I know it's boring, but if we are patient, we will come out on top. The last thing we need to stop doing in the competitive playlist, guys, is relying on these crutches that exist in the Crucible right now, and every class has them. Every class has an item that is holding your hand in the Crucible right now. For Hunters, it's Arc Battery with Worm Husk. For Titans, it's OEM and the Thunder Coil One Punch build. Warlocks have Controverse Hold with Handheld Supernova. I've seen it time and time again. People that are using these builds pigeonhole themselves into playing a certain way because they are relying on these crutches to do most of the work for them. A great example of this is Hunters with Arc Battery, and because they have this stuff, they are making just some of the dumbest decisions because they know they can get away with it. And what ends up happening is then they end up using their class ability with Arc Battery as a panic button instead of committing to a push or a gunfight that they probably would have won if they hadn't been just counting the seconds to get their class ability back. These things, these crutches, can seriously mess up your playstyle, and when these things inevitably get nerfed or removed, what will be left? What will be left is your bad habits that you've created from using these things and relying on them. It's super important, guys, that if we're not using these things to circumvent or override our playstyle and become the focal point of our playstyle, but supplementing your playstyle. I'm not saying you guys can't use these things. Will I judge you if you do? Absolutely, I will, 100%. That being said, though, if you use it, it is what it is. Just use it to complement your playstyle. Don't allow yourself to build these terrible habits, because I guarantee you a lot of these people that are crutching on these items right now, when they are removed or the season ends, etc., they are going to be in a tough spot because they're going to have developed all these bad habits. They didn't further develop their decision quality, their aim, their movement. They didn't work on any of those things because they just relied on these different exotics or class items. So make sure that if you guys are going to use these things, don't let it take over your playstyle, because these things are making people play dumber than ever. That'll wrap up this video, guys. Remember to analyze your gameplay and see if you're guilty of any of these things that I mentioned above, and start ironing them out of your gameplay. With that, thanks so much for watching. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.
For anyone. Rest when you're dead. 1 minute. No more second chances. Fight to the finish. One enemy left. The enemy's down. All lives expended. Social victory! The weight of the world was on your shoulders.